Hello everyone. On the behalf of IEEE Chandigarh University Student Branch, I Shruti Rani here to welcome you all in the great workshop. As we know, the IEEE CU is the junction for innovative minded people. So if you are the tech geek, then you have to maintain your regularity in Tekaman 2.2. Now, we extend a very warm welcome to the expert of today's workshop, Smriti Mishra ma'am. She is a head of artificial intelligence at Earthbank and successful AI speaker, computational neuroscience at KTH, open source contributor in AI, facilitator in Sweden for mind-focused coaching. Your presence in the event have leveled up, ma'am, and the motivation not only for participants but for all the viewers who are watching it presently. Now the stage is yours, ma'am.
Thank you, Shruti, for the introduction, and hello to everyone who's watching. So maybe I can talk a little about who I am. Like, why would you want to listen to me? So I'm Smriti, and I did my undergraduation in electronics and communication from 2015 to 2019. And I basically realized that I should not be working with ECA because I sucked at everything that was involved in electronics and communication. So I decided to experiment a little and see where things go. So I worked for a couple of internships, and Shruti and I were talking about it like a few moments back. And yeah, so I did a couple of different internships to actually figure out what I wanted to do. And then in my final year of undergraduate, I went to Sweden to KTH Royal Institute of Technology to do my bachelor's thesis in computational neuroscience. And there I worked on how to actually analyze the patterns in the human brain using deep learning, like recurrent neural networks, and sequence learning. So that was my thesis to study why people lose memory in amnesia, dementia, etc. So yeah, so other than that, right now I'm working at Earthbank, where I'm the head of artificial intelligence, and I work towards climate change and using technology and AI for improving the health of the planet because we want to survive. So I made a small presentation which has like the first slide is obviously an embarrassing photo of me, which I try to use everywhere, so that there's just one embarrassing photo of me online and not a lot of them. So I will share my screen. Ah, okay, and Google needs my. Um, I need to like allow Google to do that, so I'll.
I believe participants are really excited to learn about today's session. So, ma'am is back.
Yeah, something happened, but yeah, I'm back.
No.
Yeah, so I'll share my screen and hopefully you can see things then. Right now you can just see me. Okay. So yeah, this is the presentation I made. So hi, it's me. That's my embarrassing photo, which I try to use everywhere. So why do we work with climate change? We need to draw down 300 gigatons of carbon dioxide, or CO2, in 10 years. And to give you an idea, that is like 10 times the emission of, like the 10 times the carbon emission of China, or 30 times the carbon emission of India. So it's a huge amount of carbon that we need to sequester by the end of 2030. Okay, we have less than 10 years now. Um, Now, all of us know that climate change is a big problem right now. And the worst part is that, like in all the problems, like even this pandemic, it affected the people who work at the grassroots level, the people who are the most vulnerable, the most, like people who do daily jobs or people who don't have enough resources to support themselves, are always the people who are affected the most. So that is the problem that we're trying to solve using artificial intelligence and some other technology like cloud computing, blockchain, IoT, etc. So, what we basically are trying to do is that there are almost 500 million small landholders who currently, even if they are doing sustainable farming, or like sequestering carbon, not emitting it, so they have to basically pay to get their carbon monitored and verified. So what happens is basically there's like this, to anyone who's not aware of it, there's this huge carbon market right now, and there are companies that like there are like farmers which who do sustainable farming, no-till farming, or in India we know it as zero budget farming. So the small landholders or big landholders, like they do this type of farming, and if it's less than 1200 acres the land size, we call it small scale landholders, and if it's more than that then it's like a bigger landholder. It's easier for them to get their like area verified. So the problem is that they are often the most affected people who have their land smaller than 1200 acres. They are the people who suffer the most. So we are using AI and technology to create solutions which are nature based. So nature based solution means that it will draw down the carbon, but it will also create opportunities for people who are working at the grassroots level, or basically somehow in some way it will also contribute to give back to the people. So that's something that's known as nature based solution. There are three types of solutions: nature based, nature derived, and nature inspired. So nature based is when you directly work with nature, like if you work with soil, if you work with trees, water, etc. Then nature derived is solar energy, hydro energy, wind energy. So they are taken from the nature, and then we use some artificial mechanism to fix it. And then we have nature inspired solutions, which aren't necessarily like anything, they aren't necessarily using anything that's already available, but then we create something to mimic the nature, and then we have solutions. So there are these three type of solutions, and the most difficult solutions to fund or to work on is nature based. And the reason for that is that if it's a nature based solution, it's often scattered. Like you find like a small amount of ecosystem in one place often, and this like the scalability is large, but it's like often in clusters. Like you find like a little bit here, a little bit there, and then you come up with a solution that's more scalable and can be applied to a lot of places. For example, right now we are working in Meghalaya in India with the cloud forests. We're also working in Sundarbans in the mangroves, and we are working with shea butter plantations in Ghana. And you may know about shea butter because it's used in cosmetics a lot. And yeah, I use that on my hair right now. Yeah, because I experimented a lot with my hair. That's another story. So, and then we're working in the Amazon region, the rainforests in the South Peru region with Brazil nut trees, which are also very important to the indigenous community, and that is their main source of income. Now, I will soon be traveling to Sundarbans because I'm in India right now for some work. And the reason mangroves are so important to work with right now is that almost 50% of the world's fish they spawn in the mangrove regions or the mangrove water. Then, when you consider specific to India, we have the Bengal tigers, which are only found there, and like the community. That's also super dependent on their like on those particular things. And now another problem is that the current carbon monitoring reporting verification system, which is often known as the MRV system, is exclusionary as it discriminates between the small landholders and the big landholders. So if your land is like smaller than 1200 acres, you have to, like pay or invest a lot of money to get your carbon verified and to get credits for your carbon or to get paid for the farming. So the problem is that those people, they often do not have that kind of money. The other thing is that for the carbon verifiers, because it's manual right now, it is expensive. So imagine we want to do a verification in India, in Sundarbans. The process ideally would be the traditional carbon MRV method would be that you fly a team of maybe 25 experts from USA to India, and then they go in the forest and they carry like these tapes, like measuring tapes, and then they measure the height and girth of maybe like 5% of the forest, and then they extrapolate that result to the entire forest. So that makes it unreliable because you don't know if there's deforestation in some other region going on, which is pretty common because people often uh, they get paid to plant trees, but they don't get paid to take care of those trees. So if they don't have food, they often end up cutting the same trees that they planted some time back to put food on their plate. And that's not documented because there is nothing that validates it or even tells that. And it's pretty obvious that it's slow, right? I mean, you fly people from here to there, and it's just a long process. So it usually takes 6 months or something to complete this entire process, and it's done every 3 years. So between those 3 years, you don't know if the trees are there or not. And anyone who has bought the carbon credits for that particular area is paying for the credits for the entire 3 years. So, what is our solution and why is it unique? And how does it use AI? So our solution is innovative carbon MRV, which is monitoring, reporting, verification again. So we use artificial intelligence, we use deep learning, CNNs, convolutional neural network right now, and we use satellite images. And yeah, so we use the combination of satellite images, which we have a partnership with the European Space Agency, and we work with them. And then we work with deep learning and we analyze those images, and I'll talk more about it soon. The second step is carbon marketplace. So like just the technological solution is not enough, although that's going to be the focus of what I will say after this. But because the problem is also the incentivization to make sure that the people who planted the trees and are taking care of trees are also incentivized, and they get money to take care of their lives so that they don't end up destroying the ecosystem that they are living in. So the other thing that we are particularly doing at Earthbank is that we are whatever revenue we generate from these particular trees or the particular ecosystem that we are working with, what the revenue we generate, 50% goes back to the community so that they can take care of their lives. And transparent credits. So yeah, that's again an AI thing. I'll talk about it soon. So yeah, our innovative deep technology, deep tech AI enables carbon MRV, and ideally the least amount of area required for in order to get carbon sequestration incentivized was 1200 acres, and now with this using satellite images and using AI, we have reduced it to 250 square meters, which is necessarily equal to zero point 0.6 acres or 0.06 acres, I think. Yes, 0.06 acres. So it's basically an 18,000 fold increase in the size efficiency, which is, I think, pretty cool. So yeah, I already mentioned transparency and credibility. I spoke too soon. I had this beautiful image of desert with Sahara, where I've never been, but I want to go. So the impacts, which is since we are, as I already mentioned, that we share 50% of the revenue back with the community who we work with. So we work towards certain impacts. So or certain sustainability development goals. So we work with no poverty, which is a direct impact for us because when we work in a particular location, we hire not exactly hire. We work with people from that particular area. So also, like, we have noticed that giving 50% back to them, it sort of makes their income 1.5 times to what it ideally should be, or was before, eliminating that other, they eliminating the revenue. So we work towards poverty eradication. Then that is obviously indirectly related to zero hunger. They have a better lifestyle if they have little more income or a little more help or incentivization for the efforts that they're putting in. The other thing is that often, if the ecosystem is better, you have more trees growing, which means that, okay, like in Meghalaya, we planted pineapple trees, pineapple plants, and rubber trees. So pineapple is just an example, but in most cases, it's often the like fruits or vegetables or like biodiversity things which are food, so you can have a better health of the fruit and nuts or vegetables, etc., which also equates indirectly to zero hunger. Then the next is decent work and economic growth, again similar to the first point. If someone's given work opportunities and they are obviously working hard, and they're given the proper opportunity, which is always the struggle, like often the struggle. So it eventually does lead to a good economic growth, and people actually enjoy the work a lot, is what we have seen. The next is reduced inequalities. So reduced inequalities, by that we say that we have reduced the inequality using technology, and most of it AI. So there's like less gap or distinct, like just like, yeah, less gap between the technology, between the modern financial systems like banks, etc., and it's more available to all the communities, because for the last couple of years, since whenever we started working, we have been doing these transactions online through green banks, encouraging green loans, encouraging people to sequester carbon or make sure that they are involved in healthy habits. The next is climate action, which is obviously our direct impact, because that's what we basically do. Like, the whole point of planting so many trees and taking care of the biodiversity is to draw down carbon sequestration and making sure to draw down carbon emission and sequester more carbon. Sorry about that. And yeah, basically, we do not want COVID sized pandemics every 10 years, which will happen if we do not draw down the carbon, if we do not work towards the Paris Agreement of reducing the global temperature by 1.5 degrees within the next 10 years. And we do it by sequestering 300 gigatons of carbon, which is a lot. And everyone needs to act as a team to do that. You might have heard about Canada burning down a few, I think it was a week back or 2 weeks back, 2 weeks back probably. It's pretty sad. I mean, that's one of the oldest cities in the world, and that's burned down. And if that does, like, if we don't basically fix it, I don't want to like give bad news, but yeah, we can expect COVID-sized pandemics every 10 years. So we take like 4 to 5 years to recover from COVID, and then boom, next 4 years we have another pandemic, which we did not want. So we have to work towards this. And the last one, which is also a direct impact, is life on land. So we all know that if we have a healthier ecosystem, if we have less deforestation, like there's less soil erosion, there's less land degradation. So yeah, all those are pretty related, and that's also one of our major area of focus. So yeah, these are a few impacts, and if you want to connect with me, you can do it on LinkedIn, where I'm the most active. I also have a website, which is pretty cool, which I like. And then I have a YouTube channel, which basically sucks. So do not go there. But I wanted to put 3 so that it looks nice. So I put it there. But yeah, don't bother checking out my YouTube channel. It's pretty embarrassing. Or if you want to see me embarrass myself, then you can do that. Because yeah, it's pretty embarrassing. But my website is cool. I uploaded something today also, which I think is nice. And yeah, LinkedIn, I'm like, I probably use it more than WhatsApp at this point. So that's it, I think. Yeah, that's it. It was probably the last one, yeah. And if it's a little, how do I stop sharing the screen? Why is it happening? Okay, stop screen. It was right there. So yeah, um, if whatever I said was confusing, or if the carbon thing wasn't clear, or if you have any questions, feel free to ask right now. And I wanted to keep the presentation a little short so that I could probably address more questions in the Q&A. So hi Shruti.
Hi, ma'am. Indeed, it was a great session. I truly believe that our participants have learned a lot from today's session. So now we will proceeding with the questions in our chat section. So first question is, how can I start my open source contribution and how to select a project?
So I would suggest when it comes to selecting a project, it's, in my opinion, very important to relate to the motive that you're working towards. So for me, like when I did my first machine learning project, it was related to lung cancer. Um, and then I worked with predicting, oh shit, what was it? English Premier League results because I saw Moneyball and I was pretty inspired by it. So that was my seventh semester machine learning project in undergrad. And then I worked in computational neuroscience because I realized I wanted to stick with healthcare and, if possible, mental health because that's super important now. So when it comes to selecting a project, like maybe start with smaller projects, but try and define your niche or try and define what area you want to work towards. And it can be like a couple of areas. That's also fine. Like I work towards healthcare, I work towards mental health, physical health, and climate change. That's fine. But like I can't work on a self-driving car using AI. That's something I can't do. I don't have any information, knowledge about it, and yeah, so that's important. And how do you start contributing in open source? It's actually pretty, like there are a lot of options right there. I mean, you can use GitHub and you can like share your codes with people who might be interested. Like you can use LinkedIn for that. Like that's the most basic thing. Other than that, there are a lot of open source communities that are out there. So I'm a part of AI Guild, which is mostly Europe focused. And although there are a lot of people from India, then if you're a woman, like who is like, there's also a women in AI. Although there are men also, it's not like exclusively women, but there's like it is for women, but there are men also. So there's a lot of open source work that's going on. Then I'm also part of Airplane Alliance, which is an open source community again. Then Aishwarya Srinivasan, I just attended her event in the morning. So if anyone wants, I can probably like talk to her as well. So she works a lot with. She like recently started her open source community called Eliminate AI, and she's pretty cool when it comes to this stuff. So yeah, there are a lot of organizations like that. Those were just like a few examples. So you can always contribute in any way, like a lot of ways.
Yes, ma'am. Then second question is, how you started deep learning, resources to learn.
Yeah, so I actually started deep learning when I went for my undergraduate thesis in to Stockholm. Before that, I knew machine learning. I did not know deep learning, so it was more like an like project plus learning for me. So my first 1 month was pretty much like trying to figure out how to do and crying that I can't do it. But yeah, it turned out okay towards like the end of the thing. Resources to learn, obviously Andrew and G. He's awesome. Deeplearning.ai is epic when it comes to deep learning. And I think most of the work, at least when you want to start, it's definitely Andrew and G's work or and deeplearning.ai. They have Pi and AI, they have some other thing also. Yeah, the work they do with Google Brain, like it's all pretty interesting. So if you want to connect with me, I can share some information around that.
And third question is that how can a person who is from industrial engineering start AI journey?
So yeah, it obviously starts from you trying to learn. and it'll take some time ideally. And you have to first start with ideally machine learning and try and understand some machine learning concepts. And then once you think you know enough machine learning, it's better to go into deep learning because there are also some concepts that you would be using. Also, if you want to like, there are several things in AI actually, like this data engineer, data scientist, AI engineer, um, things related to IoT and AI. So I would suggest, instead of absolutely switching your like field, because you have some experience in industrial engineering, why not inculcate that in here and use it, right? So I I'm not really sure what happens in industrial engineering, but if it's something related to, I'll just give a random example. If it's something related to I think it is something related to production, if I'm not wrong. So maybe you can do some AI implementation in analyzing supply chain, etc., and seeing how you could maybe how to make it green, like how to draw down the carbon emissions there using AI or something like that. So it will take some time. Obviously, you have to, or if you completely want to switch, then you have to again find out where you want to work and then start from there. Like if you want to work with healthcare, then you have to learn some concepts of healthcare also what you want to do. So yeah, just basically start the courses and do some small projects and implementations and try and figure out what you really want to do in which field. And that varies a lot. AI is very broad. So
Yes, ma'am. Then next question, ma'am, how to make a project to get an internship?
I mean, okay, so ideally it's an internship. So that's where you learn. So I wouldn't stress too much over doing a project to get internship. I would work more towards getting some knowledge so that I can start an internship. And then I would invest some time in figuring out what I want to do in the internship so that I can make my project count. So if it's an internship, ideally you do not need any experience, right? And if you want to do a project, that'll be like by yourself, right? So what I would do is, in that case, if I think I have basic knowledge and my aim of the project is only to get an internship, in that case, I would prefer doing an unpaid internship with a professor, which counts as an internship and a project both, if that makes sense.
Ma'am, the next question, that how to enter into the AI industry, where to start?
Okay, again, it's a very open-ended question, and with the same answer, you have to start from the beginning, like start from the basic concepts of machine learning, like linear regression, logistic, yeah, so like the basic algorithms, and then doing some small implementations. If you're doing a course on Coursera, start with their projects, and then go once you think you know little, go to Cadet, and maybe then Kaggle. So it's just yeah, small projects. I always like to say that it's like chess. So do a if you do theory, it's like you know the moves, right? But you only get better at it when you play the game. When you play the game of chess, yeah, I like chess. So yes, it's like that. Like you have to implement it. So you have to start deep learning. So all these questions are a little open ended. So, but in order to start deep learning, you have to know the basics at least of machine learning. That helps a lot. Um, and then for deep learning is mostly related to how the neurons work, right? So you have to know artificial neural networks, the structure of artificial neural networks, and if you're interested how it's similar to neuroscience or how it's similar to human mind, and it's actually very similar, like to the biological neurons, like the neural networks. So yeah, all those things help. And if you have any question, Prachi, just like if anything you want to follow with, yeah.
Ma'am, next question, that as we know that AI has its own darker side, Still, we are investing in this technology. Why?
Do you not have a dark side, Yash? I mean, everything has a dark side, and like anything in the world, like the reason why we are investing in AI is because it makes our work easier, to be honest. And there are some applications, like there's always you have some power and you can always use it for good or bad, right? I mean, it's more like a philosophical question in a sense, I think. Like, we know some famous people, right? Like we know Elon Musk, for example, since we're talking about AI. So he has his platform and he could use it to do something good and to do something bad. So yeah, I mean, what do I say? The first thing is that AI makes our job easier. And the second thing is that we need to sort of, like we are in the pandemic era. What if we did not have computers? How would we survive? The world would stop if we did not have AI right now. So what things are changing and we have to adapt. We are adaptable creatures. We have to change and we have to adapt. So imagine like if you're stuck right now with no airplanes, what would you do? So that's just how it is, I think. I mean, it's technology and we have to keep up with the pace. And it's always been like there, it's always been adapting, changing. Yeah.
Ma'am, then the climate change in Canada drastically this year. So, can AI help in predicting such situations which occur rarely in nature?
AI is already doing that. I mean, it's obviously if it's happening for the first time, we don't have enough data to train our model, right? But forest fires, we can predict. Actually, Google itself can do it. Like you can go to Google Cloud and not cloud. You can go to Google satellite and you can see all that happening. So it changes in real time. And right now, Geoff, forgot his last name. So he was like a manager in Google, and he is working on this application where you can take routes or using Google Maps where your carbon emission will be lowest. So all those things are actually already happening. That's not a rare occurrence, though. That's something that's trained. But we can predict forest fires. For predicting forest fires is a pretty common model right now after what happened in Australia, the Australian forest fires. And then probably this also, you'll see it soon. Like with the drug discovery development, AI helped a lot. Oh yeah, answering previous question, yes. If we did not have AI and if we did not have technology, if we did not have enough, if we hadn't invested enough earlier, ideally vaccine development takes 12 years. But now because of AI, IoT technology, several different types of technology, AI helped a lot in reducing the research work. A lot of energy was used, a lot of the several applications of AI were used, and reduced the vaccine development from 12 years to 3 years. So yeah, probably that's why we are investing in AI, because we know how doomed we are and we need to fix things using AI now.
Yes, ma'am. Then question that scope of AI.
In which field? So you saw what AI could do in climate change. When it comes to mental health, there has been a lot of work going on in mental health. And Northwestern University, they came up with this robot called Tess right now, and maybe last year. And like it's like a virtual therapeutic system, a robot which can analyze the like sort of like a filter before going to a psychiatrist or a psychologist or a therapist. So, and people find it a lot more like easier to open up to a virtual system rather than a human being, because people often judge each other, unfortunately. So, and like there are several systems which can detect anxiety based on certain things, like like if you cough, if you like speak in different ways, like emotional analysis and all that. So all of that is going on. So ideally, anxiety disorder, to detect that, it would take several months. But now we have some AI which can detect it within 20 seconds. Obviously, you need to definitely like go through a professional after that, but it's still like such cool pre-filter, right? And then like since I work with computational neuroscience, AI can help a lot with with trying to understand how human brain works. Like I worked with how amnesia and dementia could be detected. I also worked on this other project where to predict shoulder arthroplasty, like using minimal data, if a person should be operated or not. So this can expand to a lot more things, like a lot of more knee joints, like any joint injury. We can expand it to that. And, like in India, we pay for our healthcare often, but in Europe, it's the government, right? So this could save a lot of money from the government for the government, and then they could invest it in a lot better things. Like if they save like millions of billions of dollars or euros every, oh, let's not say dollars. I mean, America does not pay for healthcare, but yeah, if you're in America, you save your own money, which is also good. And there are like a lot of things, like a lot of like huge scope in it. Yeah. Self-driving cars, which we see. Why do we keep going to self-driving cars? I don't know. So yeah, like yeah, there's basically a lot of scope. If you want to know in some particular field, let me know.
Ma'am, what do you think? Will AI will take over the manual process of predicting climate change?
I mean, we can't predict climate change. Climate change is already there. We're not predicting climate change. Climate change is a fact. So it's already there. We are not exactly predicting, more like analyzing and calculating how much carbon or other greenhouse gases we are drawing down back into the atmosphere. So we are definitely doing it using AI, and a lot of companies right now, a lot of them are doing it. So it is like probably the future. Like everyone's analyzing satellite images, using drone data, lidar data, um, using different types of vegetation indexes, several cool tools like GIS, etc., to do that. So yeah, I mean, and you even have some satellites which tell you exactly what you want. So there are some satellites which analyze greenhouse gases. If I'm not wrong, this satellite called GoSat, which does that. So yeah, and there are like several other satellites which do different things. If you want to just monitor to see if suppose the rate of deforestation and you would not want to go as deep as counting the number of trees, then there is a satellite which you can use for that. And some of them already have some pre-filters already, so it's a lot like they're already pre-processed. So that's even better. So yeah.
Yes, ma'am. Ma'am, AI will replace programmers or developers, and as we can see, GitHub Copilot had came just few weeks ago.
Yeah, so I actually tried Copilot. I think it's pretty cool. I mean, they use, but I'm not sure about the ethics part though, because they sort of, although again, GitHub is not completely open source, and people are, like they said that they check licenses. The thing is that that's another part of this, right? But yeah, I'll just complete what I started. So I'm not sure about the ethics part because they are selling it and making money out of it. So the thing is that there are several licenses on GitHub, and there is no license which does not allow the other person to use that code. So so maybe they haven't done anything wrong, but I'm not going to comment on it. I don't know much. So the point of GitHub's Copilot is to make it easier for programmers or developers to code. So it's necessarily like making a job easy, and it's not really replacing you. And the thing with AI is like the more we develop, we need more people to make it more advanced. So at least until we are alive, anyone who's attending this, we are not going to be replaced by AI. So it's like, you know, imagine a person who has some money and they want to like become richer and richer and richer until they reach like Jeff Bezos' level, and then he, oh, I don't, he's not the richest person anymore. So yeah, it's like the more you advance, you want the system to be more advanced, and you need people for that. So if it may reduce some opportunity in some field, but it will definitely create more opportunities in other fields, or yeah, create more jobs than it takes, basically. And it can
Yes,
never
ma'am.
replace human beings.
Ma'am, what is difference between computer vision and deep learning, and which is better for research?
So computer vision is mostly used for like object detection and like detecting things, and deep learning is more like it's more neural network based. So it's kind of different things. There's like not, I mean, you can't compare the two, and what is better for research really depends on what you want to use it for. So if you want to do research on maybe like detecting number plates or detecting even like detecting things, computer vision applications a lot more easier usually. So but computer vision can be like a rule based approach where you don't necessarily like you don't necessarily have so many callbacks or so many feature like so many checkpoints, but deep learning is a little bit more accurate, usually because it has a lot of different checkpoints in maybe a similar application, I would say. But then they're very different things. Like if you want to go with something related to healthcare, mental health, it's obviously deep learning because deep learning we have RNNs which have memory, so it's a lot more similar to the brain. So it does not just does not store your last sequence like last input, but it can store like a sequence of inputs, etc. So it depends on the application. Like yeah.
Yes, ma'am. Then, what are the sources for learning AI ML free, and what kinds of project can help us to develop knowledge in it?
Basically everything is free. When you think of it, it's like even if there is a course that you have to pay, you have to pay for the certificate, but not for the course itself. I mean, you can always audit almost everything in AIML. And like when it comes to books and everything, there are so many things that are available open source. So you can basically find everything free, I would say. There are like obviously there are some things which you can't, like if it's an MIT course then you can't get it for free, but if you want to study and learn you can definitely find information, good information, and each and every topic for free. So that's out of like that's possibilities, like everything is free. And what kind of project, again that depends on what your interest is. But like if you're doing a course, maybe like if you're doing Coursera, then you can apply for financial aid. And yeah, otherwise you can just audit the course, and so you have some courses for some you know some projects, for example. So maybe you can start with that, and once you're done with that, you can, because you just have to fill like a couple of things which may give you like a decent-ish understanding. I'm not a fan of their exercises, but the courses are good because you need some theory as well. And after that, like there's CAT-IT, which I think is a lot more has a lot more simpler problems. So and then you can select levels. So you can start with beginner, and then you can proceed like uh, in the levels, and you can participate in Kaggle, and like make sure you have a place where you have stored your projects. So either a GitHub page or something similar. GitHub, I mean, yeah, for open source, yeah. So so that helps a lot. So even if you do not have some, because I think personally, and what I've seen until now is because people don't really care so much about certifications rather than care about experience more. So if you have done projects, it shows that like you write code, you write like decent, good codes, clean codes. So because if you're working as a machine learning engineer, AI, ML, data engineer, data scientist, data analyst, anything, and you write codes, you often work in a team. So if your codes are not good, if they're not clean, if you don't comment them, the other person will not understand it ever. It's very difficult to understand someone else's code if it's not good. Or in any case, it is difficult to understand someone else's code. So, like if you have if you have a habit of writing good codes, then that helps a lot with that. You'll be working with people who are non-technical. You'll be working with people who are semi-technical or completely technical. So, like it should be as clean as possible. Like if someone can't read the code, they should just see the comments and understand what's happening at least. And you'll often have to make presentations, like to present what you're doing. That's also a very important part, especially if you want to be a data scientist anyway. So I actually applied for the position of a data scientist role sometime back, and they just ask for Python and communication. So you get how important communication is, because you'll be talking to non-technical people and explaining them what you're doing, which is a very important part of being a data scientist. So it all comes back to that. If you also go back like 5 months back to your code and it's not like well written, well documented, I can't understand what I did because I'll probably forget it. So it's good for everyone's sake. So yeah, that's very important thing to do, I think. So you can have your GitHub page when you apply for a job next time, when you apply for an internship. You just show them that, like a cool page where you have good, neat codes. I wouldn't care too much about the complexity of the problem. Maybe try different things out to understand what you actually want to do. And the importance of writing neat codes, basic neat codes is like a lot more important than doing like some shit which no one understands. That's more important in my opinion. Like focus more on that first, and then obviously go as complex as you want. That's good.
Yes, ma'am. Then, can AI predict floods?
What is flash flood? I don't know what a flash flood is. Is it flood like normal flood, or is it something different? We need to check. I have no idea what flash flood is. Do you know, Shruti?
No, ma'am. I know about floods, but don't know
Ah,
about
okay,
floods.
so it's something similar. So, so maybe because I just saw the word that, like it depends on depression and everything in the land area. So maybe if there's a lot of erosion or a lot of land degradation happening, the area is more prone. Obviously, it also depends on the geography and how prone it actually is, ideally. So if it's a place like which is where geographically floods can happen, and then we have more and more erosion there, and we have more land degradation there, then we are obviously more prone to it. So that could be some factors that contribute to it. So we can analyze this UNCCD, United Nations Center for they work with land degradation. Basically, they have like a huge name, Convention of Land Degradation, something. So UNCCD works a lot with like theoretical study and understanding of erosion and soil and all that. And then I have seen a couple of papers that work with analyzing AI, and I could be working on that too. I'm not sure. Um, so that's definitely possible, but probably we need a lot more data than we already have right now. So we need to work more on gathering the data. But yeah, logically thinking, yes, obviously it is possible. Yeah.
Ma'am, can you mention few platforms which provide certification in AI and machine learning for free and are globally recognized?
I can't think of a lot of places which provide certificates for free and are globally recognized. You either have to get into some summer school or some like some scholarship program or some internship program, like sort of like a class, and study with them, and then they do it. But mostly in those cases, also you have to pay a tuition. Um, Other than that, this AI Guild, they're providing some AI accreditation right now. And I know like the people who started it, Dania and Chris, and they're super cool. So I can check with them and I can let you know if it's free or not, because I'm not sure if it's free or not. But most places, certifications aren't free. And like Coursera, basically no one cares about the certificate because you can find all the answers on GitHub. So yeah, like if it's something that's more valuable, it's a lot more expensive. I mean, you have to invest in it, sort of.
Ma'am, next question that what made you become head of AI when you had completed graduation in 2018?
I didn't do graduation, or if it's like if graduation is the same thing as under like bachelor's, then yes. I completed in 2019 though, not 2018. So I completed it in 2019. And basically, what happened is I had planned some things which I don't do. I don't plan. I'm not a planner. But I had planned like a couple of things and nothing worked out. So yeah, so basically, I was doing my research at KTH since my seventh semester. So it's since January 2019 until June 2020. So after that, I was trying to get into KTH for machine learning course, and they just had like 3% cut off and all that, and I did not get it. And so I was like, okay, I need a plan B because I didn't get the masters that I wanted. They look into a lot of things like the, you know, the ranking of the university or overall things, like a lot of things. So, so I was like, I need a plan B because, yeah, I needed it. So I was like, I'll look for a job. And I just started applying for jobs. And, you know, when it's summer, it's Sweden, in between the pandemic, no one works. So what happened is it's actually a funny story. And actually, my boyfriend's listening and he was there when all of this happened. So, yeah, so I'm now I think it's weird what happened. So in June, July, I got some interviews and like a lot of my visa was about to expire and some people were like, yeah, no, we will give you the job, but you know, like visa will take time. We have to go. I had to go to India to get my visa done because I was on a research visa earlier. So then I had like 5 days left. Like I got a call from migration agency that like my visa is gonna expire in a week, and they had worked the entire summer. So I got the call from them, and I was like, okay, so now I have to leave the country, and I need a job in 5 days. So everyone was like, no, it's not gonna happen at all. Like, give up. And Sweden interviews take a long time. Usually they take like months. So yeah, I just applied at 12 a.m. I sent a cold message to this one person on who I found on LinkedIn. And I remember my boyfriend was like, you have us friends right now, just hang out with us. And I'm like, okay. And I was weirdly obsessed with LinkedIn at that point. I just used to like keep checking if I find something that may suit me, suit my profile and all that. So that happened, and then a day before I was going to leave the country, I had the job. So it was mostly like like I obviously applied to the positions or sent cold messages to people who I really wanted to work with. But that's how it happens. It was not planned at all. It just happened, and I still don't know how it happened. To be honest, it was weird.
Thank you, ma'am. Thank you
Great,
for
ma'am.
such a great explanation. Such a
Thank you
great.
Thank
for
you, ma'am.
being
Thanks a lot.
helpful. And
Thanks a
anyone
lot.
who wants to connect with me if I did not answer the question well, feel free to do it on LinkedIn.
Exactly, ma'am. It was indeed a great session and mind-blowing session. There were ample amount of questions coming, but we were not able to cover all of them. But yet, guys, if you have any questions tomorrow, also we are going to have Smriti ma'am with us in this session. So participants, feel free to contact ma'am on LinkedIn also. She has shared her LinkedIn and other contact details, so you can feel free and ask her. So,
Yeah.
ma'am, thank you. Thanks a lot for the great session. It was really a mind-blowing session. Our participants have really enjoyed a lot. And guys, we have also shared the feedback form with you all in the chat section. Do fill the feedback form because your feedback will help us to improve a lot. So thanks to all. Thanks to uh, Smriti ma'am. Thanks to Shruti for hosting. Thanks a lot to
Thank you,
everyone.
ma'am.
Bye
Thank you,
bye. Have a
Shruti.
nice day.
You
And
too.
tomorrow. And we'll also have upcoming. We'll have sessions in upcoming days also for a full month for Techaman 2.0. So don't forget to subscribe and like our channel so that you can get recent updates about the sessions. So thanks a lot to everyone. Thanks to all the participants. Thanks, man. Thank you. Have a
Thank you
nice
so
day.
much, ma'am.